Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the Echoes of the Past channel. Today's episode will cover the poignant account of the final soldiers who lost their lives in World War I after peace had already been declared. There's no doubt that the Great War was a harrowing ordeal in every respect, and the story we present today will once again highlight that reality. Previously on this channel, we featured several videos about the First World War, using direct accounts from soldiers to depict daily trench life and their feelings after taking an enemy's life. In this episode, our focus shifts to the final hours of the war, so let's begin at the outset. As many of you are aware, the First World War was defined by stagnant front lines, entrenched troops, and a relentless war of attrition with little territorial gain. This was the hallmark of the conflict along the Franco-German front until nearly 4 years after hostilities commenced. By November 1918, Germany agreed to end the war, opting to sign a peace agreement without suffering outright military defeat or having its lines breached. Peace talks began around November 9, 1918, when German delegates met with French Marshal Ferdinand Foch. Although the German negotiators requested an immediate ceasefire to avoid further loss of life, Marshal Foch refused, insisting that fighting continue until the surrender was formally signed. Thus, the war dragged on. 2 days later, at dawn on November 11th, an agreement was finally achieved. The Germans again asked for the ceasefire to be declared immediately, around 5 in the morning, but Marshal Foch declined and instead scheduled it for 11 a.m., creating the legendary Armistice Day, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, 1918. It's estimated that in the 6 hours between the armistice signing and its enforcement, about 2,500 soldiers were killed by ongoing bombardments and gunfire, and in the preceding 24 hours, between 10,000 and 13,000 men perished, soldiers who should have returned to their families, but whose bodies remained on the battlefield. The final telegram read, "Cease hostilities across the front on November 11th at 11 a.m. French time." However, the orders seemed ambiguous, as individuals acted according to their own judgment. Most Allied commanders chose the humane and sensible route, waiting quietly in the trenches and avoiding further casualties. But some officers sought one last opportunity to advance their careers, indifferent to the continued bloodshed. Harry Truman, for instance, who served as an artillery officer during the war before becoming U.S. president, was among those who kept fighting until the end. He later recalled, "I fired the battery according to orders until 10:45. At that moment, I fired my last shot." Truman's story is particularly notable due to his future role as president, and after learning of the armistice, he wrote to his girlfriend, "It's a shame we can't invade Germany and punish some of the children and old people, but perhaps it's better to make them work for France and Belgium for 50 years. Still, in the 15 minutes between my last shot at 10:45 and the official end at 11 a.m., there were no further needless deaths." One of the most tragic and inexplicable losses was that of Henry Gunther, recognized as the last official casualty of World War I, whose story we will now explore. Gunther, a 23-year-old American, had previously been reduced in rank from sergeant due to an unfortunate incident. He wrote a letter to friends criticizing trench conditions and advising against enlisting, which was intercepted by censors and led to his punishment. This blow to his pride weighed heavily on Gunther, and on the morning of November 11th, he defied his sergeant's orders, steeling himself to charge with his bayonet in an attempt to seize an enemy trench. His sole motivation was to redeem himself and restore his former rank, fearing that his fellow soldiers, aware he was the son of German immigrants, might see him as a traitor. Neither his comrades nor the Germans, who were simply waiting for the war to end without further bloodshed, could stop him. The Germans, horrified and aware that hostilities were about to cease, signaled and shouted for him to turn back. They even fired warning shots over his head to frighten him into retreating, but Gunther pressed on until he was ultimately killed at 10:59. Ironically and grimly, Gunther achieved his goal as the Army posthumously reinstated his rank of sergeant. Sadly, Private Henry Gunther was not the only one to die under such circumstances. Many others continued fighting, either by choice or due to delayed news in their sectors. Additionally, countless wounded soldiers succumbed to their injuries, further increasing the toll. That concludes today's program, which undoubtedly highlights yet another absurdity of the First World War. I hope this video has been informative and serves as a reminder of those soldiers who, in many cases, lost their lives due to the folly of their commanders or political leaders. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this topic. Lastly, I encourage you to check the video description for more content about the First World War. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care, and see you soon.